to do this. Oh, here we go. Start
Yes.
video.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I have Robin Wilson here, none other than the Robin Wilson, she interior designer, real estate mogul, and here
And a Black woman who
Yes.
doesn't have a hair salon right now due to COVID-19. Okay. I did my best today.
Let me say this again because it wasn't on the recording. Okay, so you have to wake folk up. Let me wake them up this morning. $80 million in revenue.
Well, actually, it's more. You're going to laugh.
Oh, that's, go ahead, sister. Let them know.
So, first of all, hello. Thank you so much for having me on this program today. And Deborah, the years just seem to slip by, and we look back and it's been a decade
Yes.
of knowing each other. I love that you've got this podcast, and your media empire is growing, and your connections and connector ability, if that's a word, to our community, and making sure that we all know about each other. So that I want to applaud you for. Let me just say that we've sold over $80 million wholesale. So when you look at the retail numbers, as many people know, retail numbers are a 4x multiple, which means our brand is worth around $350 million.
Wow.
I think that is exciting because, well, there's two sides. It's exciting because people bought my product. That's the positive. But the sad part of it is, as the previous panelists mentioned, sometimes people don't like the packaging. So when I look back, I actually had a generic brown, we couldn't tell if they were Hispanic, white. I had on the outside of my packaging, not my picture, not someone who looked like us, but just a woman, what I call the stock photo woman, because that was the only way Bed Bath Beyond and Kohl's and Penny's would accept my product. Now, at the same time, I'm running billboards with that same woman's face, not my face, not your face. And that, when I look back, was a travesty, but that is part of systemic racism, because there are people who literally would not buy if we were brown on the packaging. And so I actually believe that I grew my brand through anonymity with just my name. And Robin Wilson is a very generic name.
Yes.
In fact, there's some famous people like the lead singer of the Gin Blossoms, who's Robin Wilson. There happen to be 2 or 3 other white designers whose names are Robin Wilson. So I knew they might confuse me with one of those in Michigan or in California. They're also, the guy who created Sudoku word puzzles is named Robin Wilson. There's an opera singer named Robin Wilson. I was like, that brand confusion might benefit me with a lot of different populations who get excited about the name. The sad part is, in a way, I look back and I believe I didn't have the courage to hold those brands accountable. But I also say, had I pushed, I might never have entered Bed Bath Beyond or Home Goods or Kohl's. So I have a job now to bring others behind me who don't have to hide behind that packaging. Or I have to do what Will Smith's son just did. I don't know if you heard this. And I'm so excited for Jaden. Will Smith's son, several years ago, about 5 years ago, said, I'm an investor in Just Water. Now, 5 years later, you know what he said? I own Just Water. But the only way he got on Whole Foods shelf and many other distribution shelves was to simply say, I'm an investor, which makes it look like a celebrity endorsement or something of that nature. So that is something we have to contend with in the lifestyle brand category as we build our platforms, to recognize that systemically, you can't scream too much. You almost have to get there and then pull people along behind you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, let me ask you, when you started out, and we've talked about this before, and it's in the book as well, but where you are today, did you have this whole idea in mind? Because go back and just kind of share your story,
All
Rob,
right.
to
Well, everybody, I'm going to remind you,
see.
this is COVID-19. My hair looks like this because the salons are not open. Okay? So, my mother would say, girl, and I was like, Mom, this is the best I could do. So, to all of us out there suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic, hair salon closures, it will look very different in about 2 weeks. Okay? This is 12 weeks.
we all see the beauty.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
My story. I'm from Austin, Texas, and born and raised in a family of working people. My father was a bus driver, like Greyhound. He was probably the third Black bus driver in Texas that did interstate bus hauling, meaning one city to another in the state. My father always joked he had to do that because there was at least a bathroom in the back of the bus. He could have some dignity instead of going to these small Texas towns where he had to go to the back of the building, if he were a patron on the bus to get his sandwich. He was the only one who'd go into the front door because he had to pick up the freight from that small town. My mother's family would have been what one would call the middle professional class. My mother's father was a minister. She grew up, went to college, met my dad. He was driving the city bus at the time. Most people think Black history is so ancient, but 1968, 69, he was the second Black bus driver in the city of Austin, which is considered the most liberal bastion of the whole wide world. But most people don't know there was an East Austin and a West Austin. Never the twain shall meet. In fact, Black people, when the bus got to Congress Avenue, had to move to the back of the bus. That is what I grew up in Austin, Texas. Now, it was liberal enough that by the time I went to elementary school, I went to an almost all-white elementary school. But that was by design because it was close to my mom's office. And it happened to be one of the schools where my parents had to drive me to school. They prevented integration by not having a bus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So systemic racism, right? Well, that was the best school in the city. It had all the resources. It was a small class ratio, maybe 12 kids per class. Amazing. And education became my ticket, although I didn't know it at the time. So you fast forward from Little Pease Elementary to then the junior high school. It's getting whiter and whiter and whiter, right? When I look back. So I go to the junior high school, there are kids bussed in. I'm still driven to school. I'm given a transfer because of the neighborhood in which we live and because I have good grades. And my mother lobbied for me to go to that school. So they're like, as long as we don't have to provide a bus for your kid, you can go here. My mother every day dutifully drove us to school because, again, it was close to her office. So if anything ever happened, she could zip over real fast and be an advocate. That's how parents in Texas had to think in that era. And let's go back to one of the stories I told you is the first time, and I think all of us have this experience, the first time you were called the N-word, or the first time you realized you were Black, not from your home with the Black pride, but I'm talking it's a bad thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in, I want to say first grade, maybe kindergarten, first grade. And this young boy looked at me with disgust, new boy at the school, first grade. Looks at me and says, "You're dirty. You're a little kid." And he's like, and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Right.
What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis? Right? And this little boy, again, "You're dirty. Look at me. Look at you." So the teacher, of course, checks him, but that gets in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that night, my mother finds me in the bathtub trying to give myself a bath with a Brillo pad.
Mm-hmm.
Scratched off my skin, this,
Yeah.
that, and the other. My mother's like, Lord, okay, let's talk about this. And fast forward, actually goes to the school and says, I remember the boy's name, I won't say it out loud, but this little boy did this to my daughter. Look at her arm. He gets suspended, expelled. Parents are like, our son wouldn't do that. Little boys in first grade, they ask him, where'd you learn this? At home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's go to, as you know, I have a 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm an older mom, ladies. I believed in the lean in, do your career, make your money, and then your kids will have better experiences. I believed that until, how do you say, I hit that 40-something, had the child, and didn't bounce back like a 20-something, okay? It still hurts. But I have a 7-year-old, and I am 50 now. So anyway, last year, my daughter's in first grade. Guess what happened?
What?
A little girl comes up to my daughter and tries to scratch her face to get the dirt off. Now, flashback, Back to the Future happened to me. I go to the school. I'm like, really? She got a scratch on her face. I don't like this. If my daughter came up into this school and did this to another child, y'all would say bullying, whatever. Now you're saying, well, it was an accident.
Right.
How can you scratch a child's face
By
where it's
accident.
bleeding? It's bleeding. Okay. The principal's like, well, and the mother's like, well, so I'm almost made to apologize for my daughter being in the place where she didn't defend herself and didn't tell the teacher in time. Well, 2 weeks later, another little boy says to, again, they're in first grade, so they don't know to lie yet. Another little boy says to a little boy, well, I don't play with brown kids because they're dirty. Well, the beautiful thing is the teacher overheard it.
Mm.
She pulls this child aside. What did you just say? He repeats it. And then he says, where did you hear this? At home. Well, my daughter came home. I'm in New York City that day. I get a phone call from the principal. Principal's in tears, crying. I just don't see color. I didn't know. And I'm like on the phone. Now, the funny part of this is I had to go to the doctor's office. I walk into the doctor's office. The woman takes my pulse. She's like, I think you're having a heart attack.
Steam coming out.
I said to the nurse, no, this is what just happened. And she's like, okay, let me let you sit here and do some yoga breathing for like 20 minutes. She comes back, she's like, oh, everything's normal. I get back. My daughter, when I picked her up there, I said, what happened? And she's like, Mommy, I won't say the boy's name. She said, Mommy, this little boy said this, and the teacher took him down to the principal's office, and he never came back.
Well, that's good.
At least my flashback of Back to the Future didn't occur. So now, ladies, I'm sorry. I'm off track, but I got to tell you, systemic racism doesn't just start at the university or the job level. It starts in the homes of these children of this generation who are 5, 6, and 7 years old, who are learning to believe in superiority, who are learning from home, whether it's their parents or grandparents that might be raising them, that the system needs to benefit them, and those people over there need to know their place. Systemic racism has to be checked at the elementary school level, because by the time they're 16 and by the time they're 26 and 36, it's like
it's too late.
It's too late.
Unless God just gonna go on and change it. I mean, of course, nothing is ever too late with God, but it's
right. But
it's
we need to support teachers and communities at the elementary school level
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that our children, who sometimes may not be vocal about what's happening to them at school or what has happened, that
Mm-hmm.
we continue to educate and believe in them and share with them the beauty of their skin that
Mm-hmm.
they're in, that
Mm-hmm.
they cannot change, and their hair and their whatever culturally they celebrate, whether it's Muslim, whether it's Christian, whether it is Buddhism, whatever they celebrate, that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so all of that is the preface to say, this little girl from Austin, Texas did not believe that I would be in the place I am today, career-wise. And let me tell you about the lucky break, and let me tell each of you how to build your platform. And I don't have beautiful slides like Miss Hayward had, so I feel like I didn't do my homework. Oh my God. But I do have a copy. I'm gonna do this. Here is my book, Clean Design, Wellness for Your Lifestyle. Okay? This is all of the stuff that you need to know about your home to keep it eco-friendly and hypoallergenic. And I believe Deborah is going to be able to give some of these away to some people. So y'all make sure the first 10 people that say, Deborah, I want a book, you better make sure you're on that list. And I think I'm going to have to mail those out to you. Okay? So look at this. Is it 10 or 20? I think we'll do 10. We'll see how fast you get to 10. And then we might do 20. Anyway, so let me just say to you, ladies and gentlemen who might be on this beautiful Saturday, day after Juneteenth. I started in corporate America at a major consulting firm. I was the first, and that was in 1991, 92, the first professional in the consulting firm. Now, the reason why I was chosen, and I'll say that, was I believe that they were probably about to get in trouble with the government for not having diversity. The nice thing is I was qualified because I had worked, again, working class family, I had worked and gotten an internship at a utility. So I actually knew about demand side management, and I knew about all these energy efficiency, rubrics, and I could go into my job and perform. So I was lucky in that way that I didn't become just we hired her for no reason, except that she's brown. I did my job. I got promoted. I then left the consulting world because I jokingly say you clean your clothes on Saturday after you fly in from a town, and then you fly to the next town the next week. So you're just living out of a suitcase. That was not I did not like that. I wanted to build community ties and relationships. Fast forward. I was hired by a major publishing company, Houghton Mifflin. And the beauty is I could help our community for the first time. I became their national corporate recruiter. So it's funny, a couple of weeks ago, as we're all locked in during this pandemic, I received an email from a gentleman who I had hired. And he's now like the executive vice president of a major publishing company. He's like, I was a teacher making $20,000 a year, and you plucked me out to be a textbook salesman, and now look at my career. Thank you.
Wow.
So I was able to hire us in the legal departments, in the senior, jobs, and then or middle management jobs. So then hopefully with the mentorship and the good job performance, you would actually continue to rise in the publishing world. So there's several people whose careers started from that moment because there had never been diversity in publishing on the educational side. Again, we go back to, if the books aren't teaching,
Right.
then how can the children learn?
Right.
And many people, I'm going to say this, I'm going to shout out to a gentleman named Ray Shepard. He's an African-American who was the first editor in the publishing world. He is still alive. He's in his 80s, and he lives in Massachusetts, and he's written several books, but he was the first Black editor in the publishing world. Now, can you imagine this man saying, where's Juneteenth in this book? And making them put it in. He's that man. And then would have to go before the textbook committees in various states and lobby for our history to be more than one page. So I want to throw that shout out to Ray Shepard. Anyway, I met people like that in that job. Then I was given the opportunity to work for an executive search firm, and they loaned me out to the Olympic Committee. So all of a sudden, the doors open into what I call the inner sanctum of rare air. Now,
Wow.
think about what I just said. How many Black folks understand how major events happen in the world?
Right,
Meaning, whether it's the conventions or the Olympics,
right,
politics, lobbyists, major corporations, rich people, not me, but I happen to be at the table, sitting in a room saying, well, we should do the stadium over here. And we should put a hotel over here. And you
this
now
was
have
the 96 Olympics here in Atlanta.
this was we were competing around 96 for the 2015 or 20 Olympics, or whatever the year was. And I think it's 2016. Boston was competing. So I'm on the organizing committee, and I'm understanding all of a sudden, if this is going to be 2016, they have a master plan for the whole town.
Right.
Now, how many of us are in that room? If we're not in that room, we don't understand. This neighborhood is going to get the new roads. This neighborhood is going to get the new stores. This neighborhood is going to get, or this community program is going to get the nice new equipment. Because when they start doing the political tours and they have all the lobbying of the Olympic people coming to town, they need to be able to show them, oh, this is what we do in our community. Oh, this is the beautiful hotel. Oh, look at the diversity we've got here and there. We don't understand sometimes in our community that it's a 10 or 15-year plan. And if nobody is in that room, by the time you learn that the convention's in your town and you're like, oh, I'm going to rent that little shop over there, you don't realize that you're renting from somebody who knew 10 years ago to buy it.
Right, exactly. So
they bought it for $5 because you're like, oh, that neighborhood, oh, no. They bought it for $5 and now you're renting it from them.
Yes. Yeah. That's
systemic racism.
That's how it works. That's how it works. That's it. Like Michelle says, gentrification is planned. Absolutely. And
so look at the Atlanta Olympics. That neighborhood around there.
Oh, forget it. When's the last time you've been to Atlanta, Rodney?
Oh, before Corona. Yeah. So let's say a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that neighborhood where the Olympics was, there were people who had homes. They'd had them for generations in their family, right?
Yeah.
And someone comes along and says, oh, I really want your house. I'll pay $50,000, $100 cash right now. And those folks are like, oh, they want my house.
Right.
And they sell it. But they don't know the 10-year plan is that house is going to be $600,000.
Right. Exactly. And you know what, Robert, we're going to have you come back on here.
Scandalous. I'm so scandalous. I can just say it now.
No, but everything is in divine order. Because this is what you're sharing is profound. And like I said earlier when we started off this morning, this was, I mean, it was given to me to do the Winter Summit virtually to celebrate the 10th year of me doing the first one, which been live events. And it was because of the recession, we needed to have information as business owners, because we have to create our own stimulus package. Like, I never looked to the government to do it, right? And so here we are, I get a reminder, Facebook reminder, fast forward this 10-year, I'm like, wow. And I called my sister LaFern, and I was like, it's the 10th year anniversary. I'm thinking about doing a virtual one. Yeah. Because we've got to, this is a time, it's going to be, problems, and we need to know new opportunities. We need to know how to find the new opportunities. So that's the thing. Yeah. Yep. But did I know what was going on racially with the climate? We had no idea.
No. So, this is the year of change. We have
Yes.
to say, when you
It's a
look at,
radical change.
right, when you look at 2019, that was the 400th year of slavery, right? 1619.
Right.
Okay. So then we go into 2020, and now we have a reality check. It's
Right.
literally like the fire hoses being sprayed on people in the 60s, but we
Right.
saw a man's life being extinguished.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
the man sitting on him like a deer. Okay. Like that's just beyond. So now, what we have to say to ourselves in general, as women of color, as the the family unit, sometimes we have to say two things.
Mm-hmm.
If you want an opportunity, you have to sometimes be at the table, or if you're not at that table, the person at the table has to be able to speak to you, and you can't um, throw away their opinion.
Right.
Okay, so that's something we also have in us, that we need to remember. When an opportunity is in front of us, say yes. Sometimes just say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you my say yes moment so we can zip through. I know others are going to be speaking, so I want to make sure I fast forward. So the Olympic thing, let me go back to three things. There's the pivotal elementary school moment. You've got to remember your child might be in pain. They can't tell you what just happened. They can't explain it, but that does happen at 5, 6, and 7 years old. And we need to hug our children a little more around that time and say sometimes, has anyone ever said this to you? Well, if they do, maybe be proactive about it. If
Mm-hmm.
they do, you are
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Every night I tell my daughter, you are beautiful, you are smart, you are funny, you are kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I might say to her, did anything happen today that didn't fall in those categories? And that's when the stories come out sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let me go to, how did my brand really take off? I was working at a corporate job for a major executive search firm. So after I left Houghton, I went to a major executive search firm, and they went public in 1999. Now, at that time, being from a working class family, if somebody says, you need to sign this for the IPO, what's
What's
an
that?
IPO? Is that a disease? What is that, right? Well, the day of the deadline, they're like putting the papers in front of me saying, sign this. And I'm like, okay. So I sign it. A few months later, they're like, well, the IPO has just happened, or it's happening tomorrow, and our CEO is going to be, ringing the bell. I'm like, ringing the bell? Okay. Fast forward, they have TVs in the office. It's tuned in. I'm like, oh, ringing the Wall Street bell. Oh, wait, wait. So then all of a sudden, after he rings the bell, they come into our office with, here's what your IPO shares are worth. And I'm like,
Oh, wait.
oh. Now, I was the only Black professional employee in the office. Like, not even a receptionist, not even a mailroom clerk, just me, trying to navigate my way around New
Not
York
even
City.
the janitor.
No. Well, the janitor, yes, he came at 9 o'clock at night when I was still at my desk trying to do my job, and there were no other people around, but yet they still made more money than me. But I was there at 9 o'clock, so I spoke to him, right? And I also say this: you can tell the true character of a person by how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. Because
Right.
that janitor saved my buns a couple of times, and I left my keys somewhere, and he's like, "Oh, honey, come on in. Let me let you in." I'm like, right? My spare key is in my office to my house, right? Fast forward. The IPO changed my life, because I would say Tuesday you have, and I love what Michelle said earlier about sometimes people have $25 and they're trying to make their electric bill or whatever, or get their car fare. So let's say Tuesday morning when I walked in the office, I had $25. Tuesday when I left the office, there were some zeros behind that 25. And I was like, oh. Now, let's play this out. I'm the only African American in my office. That wealth didn't get spread around.
Mm.
Think about when Facebook and all these other companies go public.
Mm-hmm.
The tech companies,
Mm-hmm.
is there one or two?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't there 200?
Mm-hmm.
who get that IPO wealth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the reality of systemic racism as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because IPO wealth doesn't happen every day,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't happen every day. So what did I do in the IPO wealth? I should have bought, no, I'm kidding. I did the smart thing. I went to an economist friend who I had recruited into a top job. And I said to him, he was at one of the major banks, and I said, I need your advice. I've never had this kind of money in my lifetime. I can't ask my parents what to do with it, right? Because, they'll be like, put it in your bank savings account.
The
Don't ever
safety
touch it.
deposit box.
Don't ever touch it, right? I was like, what do I do? And he said, you sell every share within the next 6 months. So this is $85 a share. He
Wow.
said, you sell it. I said, why? Everybody's saying this is how we're going to build wealth. He said, nope, this is a professional services firm, and the talent goes down the elevator at the end of the day.
Mm.
When these partners are allowed to cash out from that IPO, the stock is going to drop. Today it's around $14 a share. I sold every single share on my own. My boss comes into my office like this. Boom, 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 with another white male in my face saying, you don't believe in our company? Why do you sell your shares? I said, it was the best thing to do. Because the guy had told me they're going to ask you to leave.
Yeah.
Right? I had already packed up my pictures. They were going out day by day, right? They come in. It's like they knew. I don't know if you've seen the Lorax, like the camera guy. They know when you do something. It was like I sell my shares, and an hour later, the red carpet
on the door.
My office, with the arms like this. Why you sell your shares? I'm like, oh, did you call Merrill Lynch? Anyway, needless to say, they gave me a choice: buy my shares back or leave. I was like, well, I just got into NYU at night, and I'm gonna continue my degree and bye. I paid for my NYU in cash, my master's degree in cash, because real estate is my dream, and to be a developer, right? How many people can pay for that in cash? Because my mom and daddy didn't have that check, and I didn't have that check before that IPO happened. I bought an apartment in Manhattan, then I bought a second apartment in Manhattan, and started my own firm. As we know, this is our 20th anniversary year. So in 2000, I'm like, yeah. I went to Australia, Venice, Paris too. Okay, so let me leave that part in there.
You did. You bought one pair of shoes or something. You did.
I did some shopping. Some shopping.
We're gonna have to bring you back on. I do have another break segment time that if you want to text me, you can hop back on today so that you could tell them that. I mean, like I said, everything is in divine order. To what you were sharing is so important.
Yes.
It's so important. It's the backdrop as to what, and then I want the audience to hear you, to really, really hear you. You went to an economist, and I said this earlier. I said this theme, this is how God works. You're going to hear a theme all throughout today, and you can pick from every speaker, be able to pick from something the other speaker said. And I promise you, everyone will hear again about the importance of who you surround yourself with, and who you put on your team, and getting the right information, who you're getting information from. So you went to an economist. You didn't go to your uncle because he had a college
barbershop,
and he was the one that everybody respected in the family, which is great. You went to someone that told you what to do and how to do it. So.
And let me throw out one other thing. Because he's a global chief economist of a bank, you know what he said? There's about to be a recession. And let's not forget that's 2000, right? What happened in 2001?
Yes.
My money was cash. It was not in the market. And that is what we forget. We don't sometimes go to the right place for information.
Right.
And it can't always be in our community because we don't know the system.
Right.
So when I went to that white man who told me there's about to be a recession, cash out, do this, do that, I did everything. I did not lose $1 in that economic crunch, not $1. And I paid for my degree in cash. Now, I will throw out one other thing.
NYU Masters. Okay.
NYU Masters in Real Estate Finance.
Okay.
But let me throw this last bit out before, in case we can't connect again. To all you ladies and gentlemen, it is not about the degree. It is about the people you meet when you get that degree. And, you know, virtual learning is going to be really hard to do that because that network of people will absolutely change your life. I have a professor at NYU who's 80 years old now. If you only knew how many doors he has opened for me, because I was one of the few students to make an A in his class. Now, that network, don't just go in your silo and be like, I got to get straight A's. No, 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 no. Make some friends, meet some people, because when you need a reference one day, they'll be like, yeah, I've known them since I got my master's with them. Yeah, I've known them since college. And that can sometimes be a stronger reference than the straight A.
Well, you heard it from none other than Miss Robin Wilson extraordinaire. I mean, she has her book there. We're going to get it. You let me know you want the book. It's a part of one of the giveaways, and we will make sure that we get that book to you as well. And as I said earlier, all of the information, guys, is at thewinnersummit.com. All of the contact information. We want you to be in contact, engaged, just as Robin just said. You've met her. Now you can say, this is a way that you can open the door. Yes. I was at the Winner Summit and I heard you speak. I heard you talk about your daughter's experience. This is what we're talking about here today. Robin, thank you so much. Thank you. I just adore you, and I'm so blessed to be able to call you a sister friend. And
absolutely.
And thank you so much for always supporting, you know, what we're doing here to spread and to help our community through empowerment. Yes. Practical empowerment, not just some words, but practical knowledge too. So thank you so much.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Robin Wilson, everyone. Now let me go ahead and